Joe Biden is not actually crazy. Your guy is actually crazy. He has a
During a recent episode of Bill Maher's show, Kellyanne Conway, a close friend of Trump's, attempted to defend the former president. However, Maher didn't hold back and immediately delved into a topic that has been widely discussed: Trump's inability to accept defeat. We've seen this behavior before, where Trump blames others for his losses. This reached its peak during the 2020 election when Trump claimed that the election was rigged, despite losing. The consequences of this behavior were dire, with Trump inciting his supporters to storm the Capitol. Maher took this opportunity to question Conway about Trump's problematic behavior and refusal to accept defeat.
We would unconditionally accept the results of the upcoming 2024 presidential election. I'll read his answer. If everything's honest, I'll gladly accept the results. If it's not, you have to fight for the right of the country. That sounds like elections only.
Despite not knowing the outcome of the upcoming elections, Trump has explicitly stated that he will not accept the results of the 2024 presidential elections unconditionally. Since his defeat in November, he has been trying to erode trust in the American electoral system. Additionally, he seems to be suffering from senior dementia as he continues to make false claims about winning the 2020 elections in Wisconsin and other places. Trump has also indicated that he will be the sole judge of whether the 2024 elections are fair or not, and has threatened to notify if he deems them to be unfair. Therefore, if he wins, he will consider the elections fair, but if he loses, he will claim that they were rigged.
From the beginning, it hasn't changed. He does not accept election results.
President Biden has made a thoughtful response to Trump's comments, highlighting the importance of loving your country regardless of whether you win or lose. Unfortunately, Trump seems more focused on winning and getting revenge than anything else. He will say anything to win, even if it's not true, like his recent claim that immigration is interfering with the elections. This claim is not supported by federal law, which prohibits non-citizens from voting and imposes serious consequences on those who do so illegally. Despite this, Trump continues to spread fear and misinformation about immigration and election security. As for Kellyanne Conway's response to these accusations, we will explore that shortly.
Donald Trump was accused of not being able to accept the election results in 2016. Hillary Clinton made a big deal of it, and with the final debate, it's so shocking, it's so un-American. And he did accept those election results. She didn't. She still says
he won that one.
Yeah, correct.
When confronted with accusations that she and the president would refuse to accept the results of the 2020 elections if they lost, Kellyanne Conway's response was extremely illogical. She argued that this was untrue because they had accepted the results of the 2016 elections. However, this is a weak argument because they won those elections. It makes no sense to suggest that they wouldn't accept the results of an election that they had won. Despite this, the argument between Bill Maher and Conway persisted.
For some reason, early voting is no longer at 6:30 a.m. on November 5th. It goes on for 45 days in some states ahead of time. They count the ballots afterwards. As somebody who has never said election fraud, stolen election, all of that from 2020, I will say that it's important that we have states that count the early votes early and then add together the votes that were cast on Election Day and give us results that night. This shouldn't be difficult.
During the discussion, Bill Maher made a pointed statement about Trump, revealing additional incriminating information. The primary revelation was that Trump exhibits narcissistic behavior, as evidenced by his grandiose self-perception, inflated ego, insatiable need for attention, and desire for admiration. If his narcissism is questioned or criticized, he is quick to respond with aggression. Trump's behavior aligns with the textbook definition of a narcissist that is taught in psychology courses.
Trump derangement syndrome works both ways. If you don't recognize that he has malignant, narcissistic, whatever they call that, it's not just it's just not a personality quirk. That would be one thing. We all have personality quirks. This is a disease. If somebody tells him he's a brilliant guy and very handsome.
Kellyanne Conway is an expert at manipulating conversations. She has a talent for avoiding questions and instead bombarding you with irrelevant information. This tactic was used when she diverted the conversation away from Trump's narcissism and onto the idea that he was the best president despite his character flaws. However, Bill Maher was not fooled by her tactics.
You can't argue with the facts. You can't argue that 2019 we had the highest wage per household and the lowest poverty rate. in modern history. Things were
Well,
going
but-
well.
but
The
the
trade
biggest-
deals,
the
the
biggest-
border was more secure.
At times, Trump may appear less outrageous than Kellyanne Conway, who is notorious for her daily babble that can be quite challenging to endure. However, the reality is that, unlike Trump, Conway is astute and aware of how to sway individuals through manipulation, whereas Trump is simply a conceited and unintelligent individual.
I just think the Democrats wake up every morning, Emily, and they look at the calendar. The iPhone says January 6, 2021. The date never changes. And then they get an electric vehicle and go get an abortion. I just described the Democratic Party to you in 7 seconds. That's it.
Kellyanne Conway is no stranger to criticism and backlash. As one of the most prominent figures in the Trump administration, she has been the subject of countless jokes and roasts by late-night shows and comedians alike. Despite this, Conway remains a steadfast supporter of the president and his policies, often appearing on news programs to defend his actions. However, it seems that Conway herself once tried her hand at comedy. In her younger years, she dabbled in stand-up comedy shows, and some internet users have recently unearthed footage of her performances. The highlight of her act? A moment when she hobbled onto the stage with a broken leg, attempting to turn her injury into a joke. Unfortunately, the punchline fell flat, leaving the audience more uncomfortable than amused. It remains to be seen whether Conway will attempt a comedy comeback in the future. Given her penchant for defending controversial policies and making divisive statements, it's possible that she could find success in the world of political satire. However, it's also possible that her attempts at humor will continue to fall short, leading to more criticism and mockery from her detractors. Regardless of what the future holds for Conway's comedic career, it's clear that she remains a polarizing figure in American politics. Whether she's being roasted by comedians or defending the president's actions on cable news, Conway is unlikely to fade into the background anytime soon.
Kellyanne Conway, man, she has the perfect last name for what she does. Conway. It's like if my name was Michelle Jokes, frizzy hair, small.
It's been a while since we've heard something as uncomfortable as this, but let's get back to discussing Trump, since he's our main topic. During a recent event, Bill Maher heavily criticized both Kellyanne Conway and Trump. But since Trump is the presidential candidate, Maher had an important message for him about what to do if he loses the election. The concern is that if Trump loses, his tendency towards narcissism may lead him to lash out, causing dangerous consequences. Maher provided some advice for Trump to prevent this from happening.
But you know, everybody's wondering about my leg. It's the first thing they ask. Kellyanne, what happened to your leg? I'm like, well, everybody heard I was going to be in this comedy show. And they're like, break a leg. So I did. You think blondes are dumb.
However, let's shift our attention to the other subjects Bill Maher discussed with Conway. For instance, the topic of falsehoods arose. According to the Washington Post's analysis, over the course of 4 years, Trump made approximately 30,573 false or misleading statements. This means that he averaged around 21 untrue statements daily. These figures are too significant to disregard.
Tell him to be a man. That's what men do. You ever watch the end of a football game? They fight like hell, and the coaches, they walk across the field and they shake hands. They don't want to do it. It hurts like hell. And they do.
Not only does Trump have a reputation for being dishonest, but he also has a habit of insulting people. In fact, there's an entire Wikipedia page devoted to cataloging the various nicknames he's used. Some examples include calling Jackie Rosen Wacky Jackie and referring to Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, as Governor Newsom. Despite all this, Conway still believes that Trump is a likable person.
Many of us, we can go in and express ourselves. I didn't win every policy debate, but I was heard. And I think any woman in a workplace who is heard by her boss and has a seat at the table should really appreciate that. All these corporate handbooks have it on page 684. We're going to have more women at the seat of the table.
Trump has a particular skill for hurling insults, which can vary from being harsh to downright pitiful. His current focus is on attacking Biden, but rather than resorting to the expected accusations of corruption and age, Trump has opted for a different approach. During a rally in Wisconsin on Wednesday, Trump unveiled a new line of attack against his opponent.
One said he doesn't hurl personal insults.
I was making the point that when it was in the context of something, and I also have seen him be very very compassionate towards people. He's gotten people out of jail who...
It is truly baffling that someone who holds the position of the President of the United States would stoop so low as to comment on someone's physical appearance, especially when it comes to something as trivial as a swimsuit. Donald Trump has a long history of making inappropriate and offensive comments, not just towards women, but towards anyone who he perceives as a threat or an obstacle to his personal agenda. The infamous Access Hollywood tape in which Trump boasts about sexually assaulting women is just one example of his repugnant behavior. This is not the kind of person who should be leading a country, let alone commenting on the physical appearance of anyone else. It is not just the public who are aware of Trump's unsavory character. Even members of his own administration, such as Kellyanne Conway, are fully aware that he is not a nice guy. Bill Maher, a prominent comedian and television host, has personally felt the sting of Trump's insults. Maher has compiled a long list of insults that Trump has hurled in his direction, further demonstrating the president's lack of maturity and professionalism. It is important for us to hold our leaders accountable for their actions and words. We cannot allow someone who behaves in such a reprehensible manner to represent our country. It is time for us to demand better from our leaders and to stand up against those who seek to divide us and spread hate.
The 2024 election, quote, "I think we're going to win," he says on April 27th when asked about the prospect of political violence tied to November's elections. If we don't win, you know, it depends. It always depends.
What do you think about this? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoy our content, click here to see the previous episode. Thanks for watching and see you soon.